Okay, hi, hello everyone. Welcome to Curious Case of Fedora Freshmen. So this is going to be a pretty relaxed talk. So first of all, am I audible? At the back there. So, okay, I don't have much slides. That's because I wanted to speak a little more, and this talk is more of an invitation for further discussions. So, in case you're wondering what the fancy title is about, this is about we have a lot of contributors to the Fedora project, and we often see that a lot of new contributors try to come from around the world. And very often contributors onboard, they take up a project and then they disappear. So I've been working on a small project myself, and quite often it happens that people say, hey, I would like to help, and then they take on a bug and then they go missing. So I also run a small community in college. It's like an open source community, and people, they try to work on different open source projects, and similar things happen there. We see a lot of people coming in the beginning, and very soon they seem to lose interest and they're gone. So okay, so this year has happened to be the year of conferences for me. I've been doing a lot of these this year. So most of the times I don't have much to introduce about myself, but today this talk is a lot about people. So I just thought I'll make up for all of those and introduce myself for a long time this time. So I'm Sarup. I'm from India, and I'm an undergraduate student. I don't really know how the education system works here, but over there I'm final year in undergraduate studies, so I'm like 20 years old. So with Fedora, I belong to the design team. I'm helping build a Glitter Gallery, which is an open source collaboration tool for designers. And apart from that, I do general talking about the project, etc. Okay, so I'm a big fan of GitHub, so I just decided to start an issue about the talk there. But don't go and check, you won't find it. I told you I'm from design team. So yeah, that's what the talk is about. What are we doing wrong, and what are particular things that we could change that would help us improve our approach towards new contributors. So new contributors are not like everybody else. They need to be dealt with a little differently. And I've also been doing Google Summer of Code with Fedora for the last 2 years. And yeah, as part of the 2 years, I noticed certain areas where we could improve. So I'll try to bring them up during the talk. So, okay, again, let me emphasize. This is not the talk where you're going to take notes and keep track of what was taught during the event. It's more about, I'll tell what all areas exist, and we can discuss more about how to actually improve individual areas after that. So every time my professor tries to teach me something in class, they first want to talk about the context. Why should we learn this? Why is it important? So I'll try to do the same thing here. So, like I mentioned, we have the technology club in university, and every year what happens is we have 4 years in college, and in the first year we have this induction ceremony where a lot of students come, and everyone is very charged about how they're going to excel in the next 4 years. And we see a crowd of about 300 people, and we are talking about everything there is. So we talk about Microsoft, we talk about Google jobs, we talk about open source contributions. And again, we have next year, when the same induction happens, when the first years become seniors, you notice that the original 300 are now gone, and there are just about 30. And by the time it's third year, that number reduces to 3, or if you're lucky, 5. And by the time it's final year, eventually there is nobody to contribute. So when I joined in first year, it was the same. There were a lot of people. And now I'm in final year, we are around 3 or 4 friends who finally contribute. So just for the fun of it, when I sometimes ask, so 4 years passed by, you didn't contribute so far, what went wrong? Then they just say, oh, we just didn't know how to start. We tried, but we didn't know how to start, so we'll join another university and start in the next few years. So that's the context. Basically, there is a lot of enthusiasm, there are a lot of people, so this is like a very good opportunity for people to contribute, but they just don't seem to be doing it, and how could we change that? So, yeah, so what exactly, why should we be doing this? So, what happens is that there are a lot of projects and the academic side of things. By the way, I'm a student, so I'm going to talk from a student's perspective, so it's not very generic. So, from the student's perspective, the industrial side is quite different from the academic world, and it's when they first see a project, it's a huge place with so many areas to contribute. So it's a lot of tasks. First, you need to figure out what they're teaching in class and where you want to contribute, and then you go and read a lot of wiki pages, you read a lot of manuals, you try to find people to help you, and if you're lucky, somebody follows up. If you're not lucky, you just have to find another project for yourself, and then it so happens you find a place to contribute to, and then you need to push people to give you an easy bug or something, and sometimes you get bugs, sometimes you don't, and it's a very unstable way of doing things. So there is no direct way where you can just go and say, hey, I'm new, I'm available, I would like to work on this topic. So the problem is twofold. First of all, people don't know what exactly do they want to work on, because they themselves are new to things. And so, as the community, our responsibility is first to find people what they need to be working on. Secondly, we need to help them get started with whatever they want to work with, and then we need to help them improve. So that's the image basically shows somebody who's in school trying to enter a community, and what eventually ends up being happening is that it gets dissolved in the community. So. Yeah, this is the why. Why should we be helping them? So there are so many people, students who would be very useful to the project if they contributed. But so, like just now, Marina did a talk, and she mentioned how that could be a return on investment. So the more people contribute, the more there are chances they will stay back and help individual projects. So yeah. And from my observation, like there are people who are quite smart and they can actually help a lot. But the problem really exists at the point of onboarding. There are people who want to do things. There are projects waiting for people to help, and there is no actual channel for people to just go and say, I want to work on something. Where do I get started? So, okay. So I kind of spend some time with, okay, so my sources are first of all the people in the school community, and also the GSOC mailing list. There are lots of mailing lists. There is one for India, and there are lots of mailing lists for every country. And so after speaking to a lot of my juniors, I kind of tried to figure out what the actual problem is, and I realized that you could categorize people into 3 categories. And based on each category, you could deal with them differently. So, okay, let's just call them newbie. So there are these people who are very low on tech skills. Typically, first-year students who are new to programming, or if they're doing design work, then they're new to the technical side of it. But on the other hand, they're good at the other stuff. Basically, they know where to look for information. They know that when they are stuck, they need to Google. They know how to set up IRC, go on mailing lists, and ask doubts. So this is one bunch of people. Their actual problem is to figure out what suits them based on their skills or whatever they're going to be learning. So for these bunch of people, and it so happens that these guys are generally, they know how to show up at an IRC channel and just ask for help. But when you ask them, so what exactly would you like to work on? They don't have an answer because they are new, and people just say, don't come here and ask us something unless you know what you want to work on. So they seem to get offended. So we need to have a place where you put a list of things people can do based on their skills, rather than expecting them to know in advance. So that's one bunch of people. Then there are the geeks, and that could mean this person is an expert in whatever domain he is on. So he could be really good at programming, or she could be really good at design work, but they just don't know how to come up and ask for help. So I have like so many friends who are really good at their programming work or at design work, but when they need to ask for help, they just don't know what to do next. So for example, like, hey, I'm really good at web development, how can I help Fedora? So my typical answer would be just go and Google, and they think I'm trying to insult them or something. So again, for such people, the way Fedora deals with it, as I've observed, we have a wiki page where all of this is listed. So if you know what you're good at, you just find a project and work on it. But again, it's not very user-friendly, because to the newbie, a wiki page is more like a manual where the geeks do their stuff, and how can we present it in a more useful way? Then there are confused people. These are basically geeks plus newbies put together. So their first problem is they don't really know what they want to work on, and once they have figured out what they want to work on, they are not very sure how to go about it. So yeah, so I would think that if you solve the first two categories, you can think about solving the other category. So here's the slide that I would actually like to spend the most time on, and I seem to have repeated the Fedora Student program twice, so excuse me. And so over time, once there was a discussion about how to deal with newcomers. So Fedora has a group called the Fedora Join group, and people go there, and newcomers are supposed to understand that they need to find the join the group, and ask for help, and say, hey, I'm interested, I'm good in this, where can I look for help? But I kind of find it very funny, because somebody who's new to the community, I just don't see how they are supposed to figure out how to set up an IRC channel, know which channel to go to, and ask for help. So I think the better way to deal with it is to keep ambassadors on different channels, which means that if there is a design team and there are lots of design projects, it's more likely that people within the design team will have a better idea about where can a new contributor go to. So as opposed to having a lot of ambassadors or a lot of people dedicated to a joint team on a joint channel, I think there should be 2 or 3 people always dedicated to helping out newcomers on every group. I think that's a better way to go about it. So there are different ways we could go about it. One of them would be on each team we can assign people to keep track of which are the newbie friendly bugs for particular projects, and when people come and ask, they can point them out. The other way is, there are ambassadors there are people in various groups who are also ambassadors, so when they find such people elsewhere, they show them where the projects are. Then then you categorize student bugs. Okay, by the way, yeah, so Mozilla has this pretty neat site, and I thought I should just show it to people who haven't seen it before. So if I'm a new person, and if I went ahead and I know nothing about this whole business, basically I've been to a FOSS event and somebody said there is something called free software, and all I know about is the philosophy. Then if I wanted to contribute to Mozilla, I would type Mozilla contribute, and I would be landed on this page. So it's pretty neat actually. If I knew what my area of expertise is, I can just look it up, and it takes me to the relevant wiki page or the bug page. But the equivalent of this in the Fedora page would be actually this, which is quite, I don't know, not very user-friendly for somebody who is new to the project. So actually I've been proposing this for quite some time, and I actually told Noki about this. And he in fact suggested that we do this a little differently. So last time when we were in Cambodia at FOSS Asia, we had a newcomer hack first, where people came in and they were just told about the project, and they were told what areas they could help with. A lot of people had quite some difficulty trying to do the first bunch of onboarding steps, making the FAS account, uploading the GP key, etc. So this model works for people who know where they want to help and they are technically skilled enough to onboard and find help. But for people who are absolutely new and they need help setting up IRC channels, mailing lists, we should be doing this differently. So as Noki suggested, we could actually do a mashup of this site with another one, which helps with the basic setting of stuff. How do you create the FAS account? What are the the first few initial bunch of steps required to join any project? Okay. Yeah, so that's the join pages. And then I was reading up about the Fedora Student program. I actually Googled Fedora Student and it turns out there is a program, but I hadn't known about it. So
that's our big problem in Fedora. We've got thousands of things that if somebody started and nobody else knows about.
Exactly. So so what happened was I was actually ill for a really long time, and just 2 days before coming to the event, I started working on the slides because I didn't find time. So now I was wondering how do I show them how different projects deal with it. So I just went to browser. I can actually give you a quick experiment to work. I went to my browser, I typed KDE contribute, Mozilla contribute, Fedora contribute, Drupal contribute, and everybody had a page. But for Fedora's page, the last activity seemed like it said last updated 2011. So I'm not sure somebody who wants to contribute would want to go to a page which was done on 2011. So that's what I mean. We actually have all the resources. We have enough people to help students. There are enough students wanting to help, but at the Converge, we just don't have the right boarding point. So so I was talking about the Fedora Student program. So in college we have lots of student programs again that I hear about, but for me the ideal student program wouldn't really be similar to say a Microsoft student program or even many other organizations have student programs. There is this what do you call it, like a program called the Rails Girls Summer of Code. So the idea is very similar to Google Summer of Code, only that girl students can participate and they only work on Rails projects. So what I really liked about this project was instead of pairing up one mentor with a student, they paired like a couple of girls with one mentor. I think that model works really well because I have had a lot of friends, junior girls who wanted to work on Rails projects. So when I found them mentors to help them, when they had to deal with one mentor alone, it was difficult. They thought, they find mentors intimidating because they talk big stuff, and so it's kind of difficult to just deal with a mentor who is way more technically advanced than you sometimes. So what really helps is if there is a mentor and there is also a peer group, if they can discuss among themselves and improve. So for me the ideal, so what a student program can do is that if I have a Fedora student program, if I'm a Fedora student partner, then I get a mentor to myself, and what my responsibility is that in university, I will be responsible for a bunch of projects that I have some expertise on, and I will help pair students to their mentors, and I will obviously be a student myself. So in that way, what happens is people gain from a good mentor, and also we don't need as many mentors as there are students, so that also kind of lessens the load on us. Yeah, and there needs to be office hours and IRC channels. The last time there was an IRC classroom was quite some time ago. I think that was by Ankur. And so we do have a classroom. It's on Fedora Classroom. So I think that channel could get much more active, and we could do weekly sessions on version control and the basics, communication guidelines. Because these are things that people typically find hard to get started with. Apart from that, once they do have the skill, they have the abilities, but they just need to get onboarded. So I've kind of started working on join pages. I kind of drew a few mock-ups. I haven't shared them here, But yeah, if any of you would like to help me with the join pages, you can speak to me offline. Yeah, so for now I'll just close the issue and
solved.
Yeah, so you can, yeah, these are the first bunch of things. I'm not going to say this is 100% solution, but these are definitely things that we need to look at. Yeah, so if there are any questions, I would like to take them.
Yeah, I would say I would definitely agree with what you said. I myself am an undergrad as well.
All right.
And I really lucked out where I studied at RIT, where Freebie or Ralph Bean and Jeremy Cogmaker and Luke Mankin all went to study together, and the former two are both mentors of like this group called the Fossbox, which is on campus, a room where we can all just basically work on whatever project we want to work on, and we all have Fedora on our laptops, and we all help each other like more projects to work on and do.
Yeah.
And I'd say definitely I got started with a research project I had to do, but the problem was that after that research project, like for example this year, I didn't know, I was doing my schoolwork, I didn't really know what project I had to work on, and then I was also studying abroad in Germany, which is actually why I was able to come here. But I wasn't sure, like I'm not presenting anything this year, I wasn't sure what to work on, what to do. I figured I could still come here and talk to people and with that. But I'd definitely say if you could have maybe like an organized groups, maybe even by location, if it's not necessarily in a college, maybe like a city could just have a group of people that all like working on Fedora, all like just a meetup once a week at least.
Yeah, another thing is we do have, again, I'm not sure how it is everywhere in the world, but in India we have this group in Bangalore which tries to meet often, but I don't think that happens currently. But at least for us, when I see first or second years look at, if I said I'm a Fedora contributor, what they think is, oh, this guy is that corporate guy wearing a suit who writes software. But it's not like that. They don't see us as approachable. So the same thing happens when people organize a Fedora meetup in a city. So when I ask a lot of friends to come along with me to Bangalore and join the meeting, then that's what they say. I don't think we are advanced enough. I don't think we know enough. So yeah, like you said, we should have more meetings, but there has to be a mentor who actually helps people understand how it works.
Yeah, and I would say Remy also, he always made sure that we always felt comfortable. If he like, he would occasionally look around and be like, oh, is anybody seem like confused about this? And he would always bring everybody up to whatever level we all need to see on.
Yeah.
Because really it's just, I mean, it's easy to lose patience with someone who doesn't know. Like as a teacher, I know the things that I've taught people, but it's very important to make sure that you're there to help them understand. That you have this kind of atmosphere so no one really thinks, oh, it's ridiculously high level with people in suits there. So yeah, there's definitely mentors that are willing to then like share their knowledge and know that it is hard to learn in the beginning.
Yeah.
But we've all been there, for sure.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Well, you mentioned that it would be great to have ambassadors in the different groups doing that. I want that too. How do I make that happen? Because calling out, hey ambassadors, please come join the Fedora Cloud SIG did not result in that happening. Now that's probably predictable in retrospect, but what's the way to get ambassadors involved in your sub-project in Fedora?
I think like a first starting point would be for every project to first list out newcomer bugs.
The way around, you have to be Fedora in another Fedora group to become Fedora ambassador. We have to live then only with the ambassadors we have now and are not part of another group. But we could make it depending, you have to be part of another group and then we have this status.
No, I think what he's
it's just a decision Famsko or something could do.
Yeah, but then we'll still have nobody because...
You mean people don't volunteer?
Yeah.
So I think that's what even I was trying to say. If you have newcomer bugs listed, which are assigned to people.
So have you seen what can I do for Mozilla.org?
Yeah.
Maybe you mentioned that already.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so something like that would be good. And actually I was just having an idea earlier this week that in a lot of our meetings, the IRC meeting software has this help item, where you can say you can list, you can say like help needed for some specific thing, and we do that sometimes, but that goes into the meeting logs, and who reads the meeting logs? People who really care already, right?
I did this thing in Phnom Penh not without foundation. I found out really a lot of, especially the Cambodians, they are used to the newest technology, but old warhorses like SSH, what is this? IRC, what is this? Yeah. They can talk with you about Skype, they know everything about it, but what is IRC? And we have not much problem to fetch something. We have more problems with newbies. They are not used to a mailing list. They subscribed digests and answered them. Yeah, that's why I did this 8 hours workshop where we really did everything cover what you need to become part of the Fedora project. To find something was there not a problem. We found 2 from Cambodia, Nisa Banbotre and Somban.com, and both of them wanted next to become ambassador also translate Fedora pages to Khmer. Look at the status, nothing happens. They tried. I got from each mail they sent to the translation team who is responsible for it. I got a copy, nothing moved. It's not that the people don't find what they can do. It's just, we have to enable them, give them the foundations, and they will find something. And we have to make sure that if they come, that they not run against the wall and feel, oh, I'm not needed here.
Yeah, I think we have both those problems from the different user cases that he was talking about. We definitely have people who, in that case, and then we have the other case where people don't know what to do.
I have so many friends in college who are experts at what they do, but if you ask them to come on an IRC channel, then the problem starts. So
I think that the join thing can help with that, except for the irony you said that you need to be there in order to do that. So one of the things, there's another talk right now about this WARTA thing, which is a web-based communication and collaboration
I think we should just repeat such workshops more often. We should tell our ambassador, do that. It was not only the workshop, we did it on the end of the FOSS Asia. So, and we had different talks about Fedora on FOSS Asia. I did a talk there what you can do without programming for Fedora. So all they joined there did already know, I can do that and that. And then we just made the foundations. And if we make that locally, everywhere, we will change the situation. More as if we do another page. I mean, the join pages from Fedora wanted to be changed so often.
What about?
2 years ago, I did a lot of graphics for new join pages. They never was used because the responsible person had no interest then in Fedora anymore. And then some said, oh, they are too childish. And then the next idea come to make the join pages better. And on the end, it's not better, it's just something new, but it's not better.
Yeah, I think the web page being out of date is like, we've got a lot of things that are problems, that's for sure.
What about having, like, I was passing this around, like something like this, but it will, like, you go through and you pick stuff and it will, like, start highlighting, like, our join page, it will say, like, our marketing, websites, videos, and then, like, you can actually, once it ramps you up, gets you a fast account, and then it gets you to a page where you can actually type out, like, an introduction. You can pick which groups you would like. I don't even know if this is possible, but actually it would subscribe you to the mailing list, and then it would send out an introduction to the different mailing lists, and you can kind of pick like what project it would, like, say if you pick websites, like it would scroll down and show like their tickets, and you could say, oh hey, I'm looking at fixing this HTML code, and here's a little introduction about me. And if you did the docs one, you could say, oh, I want to write this little ticket, and it would just send it out to various.
Yeah.
And that would be kind of cool because it would pretty much ramp them up right on board.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, like Maureen told me this over IRC once. It's always nicer to have a people impact, because even when I in fact did one very long workshop on version control and IRC in college, and people actually sent pull requests. They were on IRC. We made them subscribe a mailing list, and then suddenly mailing list becomes chat, and so that just won't work. So there is a lot of effort we need to put into teaching them etiquette and stuff like that. So it's not just the skill of how an IRC works or how the mailing list works, but how to use it effectively. And that's, I think, something only a mentor can help with. So yeah.
Or could we create tutorials maybe?
You mean like video tutorials?
Yeah.
Yeah, even that's an option.
We have a few right now. We have, I know, 3Bean did 2 for the development of the infrastructure.
Yeah, but I think face-to-face is the best option for doing that, because you can put immediately your question which comes to your mind to your mentor, and it's hard to do that this way because it creates a lot of work, but the result will be the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it was actually planned in a way, okay, if you want to become an ambassador, there was even somebody who could sponsor you. There was somebody, me, who could sponsor you into design team, and there was Kushal, so we was 3 mentors for 6 persons on the end. So 1 to 2. And we still needed 8 hours to explain everything, because there was so many questions. They was not used to anything. They did not know SSH. They did not know what is a key, what is a private key, what is a public key. We explained everything. We even made a little key signing party that they know how it works. We explained mailing lists, how it works, how you should behave there. We showed them all. This is the mailing list you should subscribe if you want to come there. And we immediately did that together with us. So nothing could went wrong.
It seems to me that we're kind of talking around a different issue, though. You commented that you went through the 8-hour workshop, and then these guys ran into a wall. And you commented about inviting people to join the SIG, and there was no response from ambassadors. Maybe part of the issue here is, because you've made the very good comment about how that ability to have a human response is critical. If you send an introduction out to a mailing list, and there's no response, you don't get, you don't hear these people are busy, these people are looking for me to say I want to work on this bug. You hear these people don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to approach this not necessarily from the point of view of what do we do today to create, buttons on the screen that are more attractive to people half my age, but instead, how do we convince the people who are already very strong in our community that working with new people is in their best interest?
Yeah.
That it's worth taking an hour of their time out of their contribution cycle to this project to just talking to a kid from China.
But there's a fundamental problem with a challenge facing Fedora, which has been a challenge that has been in open source from the get-go, which is as long as you are dependent on volunteer effort, then you are also vulnerable to ad hoc nature. They come and they go. And you can put a whole pile of process behind things and organize it, and you have much better reliability that way, but you also end up putting roadblocks in the way of things. So on the one side you end up with 3-year-old web pages because they've been abandoned. On the other, you end up with all the contributions being ignored because somebody's who's in the process to approve them hasn't done so. And there is no perfect answer to all of this. You've got to make the best use of whoever is around at the time, and there's not always going to be one way that will suit all of these things. And the more enabling we can be about that, the better. And I think one of the cultural things that we can simply do is to be as in. I think the biggest thing you said there was just encouraging people to not be afraid to go and contribute what they're able to when they're able to is massively helpful.
Well, I can't say for how the other groups run. For the marketing group, I personally take responsibility. Like, so if somebody says an introduction, I will wait because they're different. The other people are in a different time zones. I will wait 6 hours. If I don't see a response back, I will personally reach out to every person that comes back, and that really brings, like, we have our mailing list has a lot of communication on it. And so we've kind of almost become like a little family. We're all Facebook friends, and yeah, so it's more of a personal, I think, our group. And I think that is because we reach out right away. And like I said, if I don't hear back from somebody, I will make sure, because I wouldn't want that same thing to happen to me if I were to say, hey, I want to join the infrastructure group, and I didn't hear back.
I think that there's a certain element of self-selection on the more technical parts of open source in general, where if somebody is needing help at the very first hurdle working out something useful they can do, then perhaps they're not technical enough to really solve some of the challenging issues. There's certainly, and my background is in kernel, and in kernel there's a huge barrier to entry, and you actually want people who have the ability to invest time in getting on top of that, because there's an awful lot to master. But that is not the same for everything. If somebody who's willing to do a web, contribute on the web page or contribute to outreach, that kind of the technical, almost elitism can be harmful. So I think that there may be differences just from the backgrounds people are coming to, whether it's on outreach background or ambassador background or is a technical one. But I absolutely think we have to encourage the personal outreach stuff as much as possible for what has at root been a traditionally very technical community. So we expect people to work things out for themselves sometimes.
So what I have get many times from people that are trying to get on board of Fedora is that when they don't have a proper interest in doing something, they are kind of lost and they're looking for something to do. It's kind of difficult to find that guidance. There is not much easy fix list, because people get to do an easy fix list and end up fixing everything that is easy.
Right.
So that's another problem in getting people on board, that is kind of related to have an answer when they are looking for getting board.
So let me throw out another possibility, which isn't necessarily the right way, but say we have a rate where we have one person out of 100 who comes up and tries to get involved with Fedora, and the one person out of 100 is able to make it through whatever horrible barriers we have. We could spend a lot of effort in making that be 10 people out of 100 instead, or we could make it so the number of people showing up is 1,000 people instead of 100 people, and not change anything that we're doing about the getting involved thing, leave all the barriers as messy as they are, and if we just work on getting more people, then the filter can stay the same size and we get more people staying.
Yeah. That will work only if the onboarding process were costless for us, otherwise we would have to scale even the people who are currently involved in onboarding by 10 times.
The discussion around for a second. Has anyone had experience with another organization or group that does a effective outreach and onboarding process? And if so, what do they do?
It wasn't an open source, but yes. I ran volunteer conventions for years, and it's a completely different animal. But what we did was we have repetitive tasks, and so we had a track, if you will, that we could kind of put people through, that it's like, this is something we know you can accomplish. There's lots of people you can talk to, and when you do this, the next year we can move you up, and so on and so forth. And I'm sitting here thinking in the back of my head, given something like kernel, huge barrier of entry, are there tasks within other projects that are somewhat repetitive that we could somehow mentor down to new people? So it's like, okay, you know, we need a blurb in the release notes about this.
Isn't there something called Easy Fix?
But a lot of those tickets are so old.
Yeah, I hear two different solutions to the same problem. One is we keep a triage list of the easy tasks. It's going to be 3 years old by the time you've like, anyway, we've already had discussions today about how hard it is to do bug zapper and bug triage.
That easy a fix, then you'll probably just fix it while you're triage.
On the other hand, if you have a personal contact with a developer who's doing the bugs, then the next easy bug that comes in, they can say, here's a good one for you, and if you have problems with it, talk to me. You put the personal contact first, and then the easy issues can come from that, and you have the backup in place when obstacles arise already when you start to work on that problem. And I think that's likely to be far more successful than trying to keep some list of random easy jobs.
Take a step back here for a second. We're down the Fedora rabbit hole again. I found that a valuable insight on the conferences piece. So I think there's some things that we can learn from that. Does anyone else have experience with other groups, organizations, companies?
Yeah, summer youth camps. But
there's a very interesting one.
I do all the time, and they have a very strong program of transitioning older campers into young leaders and taking them through. And it's all about familiarity with the process, having hands-on contact with. They always know that there's somebody to back them up, and just gradually ramping up responsibilities.
So that's a very conscious and deliberate process of growing people.
Absolutely, but it's extremely hands-on. And the thing is, if you're in a summer camp environment, and I suspect in a conference environment, from the conventions I've known, it's an intensive season where everyone's in it together.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't run summer camps, but I've attended them, and you're exactly right.
And you're never short of a personal backup. You always have your mentor right there, and everyone's mucking in together. So it's really, really natural and easy to develop the personal relationships there. And that comes before anything else. Everything else is easy once you've got that there, because it's always somebody to help. You structure the program around the fact that there are people there first.
Sorry.
So anyone else?
No, I was about to comment that what I feel from the ambassadors in Latin America is that they're expending a lot of time doing talks and not that much approaching people. And I have been trying to approach people with his ideas about teaching what is in the side of programming, about SSH and IRC and that collaborative stuff. And I don't know, I talked to a lot of people who engage in small workshops, and instead of reaching, 100 people, we are only reaching 30. And instead of gaining one person, we are kind of getting 5 of 30. So it's kind of more return in that face-to-face contact than in this distant approach of just presenting and give a talk. And what I have been experiencing in groups that are volunteering is almost the same. This face-to-face leadership that is feeding people into getting to the program, and that people makes the snowball effect.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed between the difference between Fedora and summer camps is those camps there's an awful lot to do, everyone's kept really busy, but there are always enough people to do the work. In Fedora there's always more work to be done. Everybody's always busy and has always got internal things, a list of things that you never get through. And unless you are going to prioritize the personal work, the interpersonal work above the interminable, ceaseless stream of technical work, then you have to work harder to make time for that. So you've got so much going on.
And moreover, with the use camp, there is a pretty much complete overlap between what you do most of the time and what you do mentoring. You are growing a person. Whereas here, actually, it might not be in a person's best interest to go mentoring.
That's exactly what I was going to say. My wife works at a nonprofit retail store, and they depend on volunteers for that to work, and they have volunteer coordinators that's what people's paid job is. And in Fedora, I guess maybe that's my paid job to some degree, but not most of the people paid to work on Fedora are not paid. No one has 100% of their job is the volunteer coordinator role, and so that's something that maybe something we need more of. But again, that example has a case where it's a defined. There's a lot of work to do. It's defined work. You stock the shelves, work the sales floor, these kind of things, and there's different kind of roles, but they're repetitive things that are the same over and over, and it's not building anything new. And so something like Fedora, the easy fix tasks, the things that are repetitive are hard. So like we talked about in the QA session this morning, the bug zappers thing kind of died because it seems like it's going to be easy. I'll go through and triage all the bugs, but it actually burns out your soul, and it's a terrible way to get new people involved because you've just charred their soul to a crisp. Welcome to Fedora. And it's the case with a lot of the things you think of in Fesco that we need help with, and like this we need help because it's not something we can knock out easily. So that's.
So let me perhaps turn it into yet another direction. Why do people spend time on Fedora or on other different volunteer projects? The canonical answer in open source is find something that interests you and do it, because that's basically a way to avoid answering this question. But if we actually build a list of easy fix bugs or easy fix tasks, then we need some kind of answer to you should actually be doing this for the project for there are a lot of other reasons.
I have a solution to the easy fix task list getting out of date, by the way, which is you just drop things off the bottom. You keep 100 things on the list, and if it falls off the bottom of the list, it's gone. And if it's important, it'll keep getting tagged as an easy fix thing over and over again. And
well, on a related note, you mentioned that you have done Google Summer of Code twice now.
Yeah.
How did you get inducted into that? What did they do?
You mean how did I get involved with Google Summer of Code?
And more importantly, how did you? I have not mentored Google Summer of Code. I have not participated. So everyone in the room may know more about it than I do. But how did they entice you? How were you mentored? What was the process of getting you in so that you were productive by the end of the summer?
Okay, so
they have money.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, if the answer was they handed you cash, that's still a valid answer.
Yeah.
We may not be able to do that.
No, but this is slightly different because if you look at Google Summer of Code, it's in a way competitive because people, even though it's supposed to be collaborative, there is a bit of competition involved. People have to get selected to do something. So it kind of has a prerequisite that you be this much good in order to be able to be selected for this project. So the situation for that is slightly different than this. And over there, it's fixed. There are fixed mentors for projects. Okay, yeah, there is one thing that we could learn from it, that is the idea pages. So every year for GSOC, every organization has an idea page. Basically, if I'm working on a project, I just go and throw it a description and I write that I'm willing to mentor for it. And a lot of students will go through these idea pages and find the mentor, contact them, and then discuss about what they want to do.
So do we steal that?
Which one?
Do we steal that? Do we create Fedora Summer of Code that runs forever?
Yeah, for example, KDE does that. There is a KDE season of code. I don't think it involves payments.
And we do have Google Summer of Code people and GNOME Women's Outreach Program people in Fedora as well.
I think the point here is, from what I'm hearing, is people do what they want to do. There's an earlier thread, and maintaining Google Summer Code, it's a massive network of, they do two things: find qualified people
and find mentors that are interested in a specific topic and people who want to participate that match that topic. So basically, the ones that actually bubble up are when people find a topic that they're interested in and there's a mentor that's interested in mentoring on that topic. And unless those two things come together, it doesn't happen. I think that's the key concept here, that you sort of say with good work of publishing, I'm willing to mentor, which is a relationship building thing. And then the other half of that is then someone saying, I'm interested in this area.
What I see,
it's the matchmaking. That's the brilliance of Google Summer Code, not the money and all the rest of all that. But that's the brilliance.
Well, what I see in difference is that Google Summer of Code is a sprint.
Yeah.
You can do it right now and just finish and you are free. When we are talking about Fedora, it's more like a marathon. You are going to engage in a long time process. So it's a huge difference.
So more things that feel like a sprint.
But that's a thing Google has seen, and they help projects they want to keep contact with their students. We did at FOSS Asia, there was a lot of Google Summer of Code students who got sponsored from Google there, and it is definitely possible to get our Google Summer of Code students to next block and present their work, and so we have another kind of contact with them and can show us as community in a way they have not seen from us, so that they might get interested. Okay, I not paid from Google anymore, but I will still on my work continuing because I like the community. It's not just Google Summer of Code, it's more the question, what do we do that we keep the students as contributors?
Yeah, and also there is, for example, I'll quote my own project. I was working on Glitter Gallery, and so as it turns out, after the project, there are so many blog posts about it, there are so many bugs assigned to you that you kind of can't just leave it and go. So you are kind of married to your bugs. So that way, for me, for example, when I mean mentor, I wouldn't mean somebody who stays with that person 100% of the time. But if there is an easy fix, this is the person who is supposed to say, you start with this easy fix and you go to this next thing. Otherwise, you either get people who work only on easy fixes, which again doesn't help us. So so the mentor's job would be to actually find the easy fix, tell the person the next milestone, and also maybe blog about it or tweet about it so that this person gets enough recognition to work on their next project, next bug.
I think we should start an Etherpad about this, maybe? We have like 5 minutes until the next.
Okay.
I think we should put another Hackfest for that topic in an empty slot.
Yeah. I did say this was supposed to be boring presentation.
And I would love to expand our participation in the programs, the Google Summer Code, and especially the GNOME Outreach program. I think those would be great things to do. That depends on convincing Red Hat to spend the money, which is not necessarily, I mean, you can sometimes do that. So.